So how many of you are graduate students and how many of you are undergraduate students? Undergraduate students? Can I see? Graduate students? Nobody is a graduate student. So I just want to give you the expectation and the experiences from undergraduate compared to graduate school. What you expect from the coursework, from the research, from the challenges, and from the faculty expectation. So as I said that we've already lost 10 minutes, then I will just go a little bit quicker. So why can you consider going for graduate school? There are several factors, but I just listed some of them. Maybe one of them might be from their career goals. Maybe from the occupation which you want to go for. Maybe they need a master degree. Or maybe academic interest. Maybe for the interest which we have, you want to pursue a graduate school so that you can advance your interest. Or maybe the competitiveness of your desired career, maybe the job. Maybe what you desire to do is very, very competitive, and from that, maybe you think that you might have a graduate education. Another thing might be financial situation, which might force you to go for graduate school, time commitment, as well as potential job opportunities. Those are just some of the few ideas which can cause somebody to go for graduate school. And this will vary from one person to another, so it's not common for everybody, but those might be some of the factors which might cause somebody to go for graduate school. Now let's talk about the coursework. Can somebody, a undergraduate students here, tell me how many credit hours you are taking right now? Some of you will say 13 hours, 15 hours, 16 hours, something like that. For most of graduate course we can say they're going to take maybe 9 credit hours, 10 credit hours, but the difference is that the content of the materials which you're going to get. So graduate students might have few credit hours, but the content, the complexity of those courses is going to be a little bit demanding compared to what you guys are doing as undergraduate students. So the coursework for undergrad is a basic education foundation with a lot of the basic ideas. You're going to touch almost every part of the program which you're studying. So for instance, I am a civil engineering. I will be using my example as a civil engineer in this case. In civil engineering, we have like 5 different sections or sub-disciplines within civil engineering. Do you have any civil engineering student here? Okay, can you tell me section of civil engineering if you know? Geotechnical, transportation, structure, construction management, water resources, maybe environmental. So in undergraduate student, as a undergraduate student, you are taking courses from almost every aspect of that. But as a graduate student, you're just going to specialize in one section of that. So you can see the difference of what I am talking about in that case. So in graduate school also differ from undergrad that much of the force is left on the student. You are going to do much of the work by yourself because you are going to work on the research. And this research, the professor is just going to write a proposal that he got the project, and the professor even doesn't know. He just writes the proposal, the idea, and how to do that idea come from what? Come to the student. So you, as a graduate student, as a master student or a PhD student, you're going to do much of the work, and they're going to put much effort on you in that sense. So the purpose of undergraduate student is to give students enough basic ground of the field. So you're going to get those basic components of your study. But when you go to the graduate level, you're going to dig in some of the topics or some of the areas in which you're going to study. So we can say that the graduate school student, to feed themselves, you have to feed yourself. You have to dig in and then find the concept. Especially if you go to the PhD level, then is when you have to come with a new idea, the theory which nobody have done before. So it's a little bit mentality of that. You have to feed by yourself and do a lot in that sense. But also the coursework for undergrad allow individuals to explore a variety of the areas. So when you graduate from undergraduate, you can go work with the transportation agencies, with water resources agencies. I am using civil engineering as an example, maybe construction or something like that. But when you graduate from master, you've already specialized. You want one channelization of your career based on what you've been working on. So for graduate coursework, individuals who wish to pursue higher education in graduate study need to have a clear idea of what exactly they want to do. You've already decided, you've already screened and filter your field, and then you say, okay, this is what I want to do. You cannot go back and change, you know what, I did in transportation, then I want to go back maybe in water resources, for instance. That won't be the meaning of graduate studies. So the workload in graduate study entails that an individual work close with a major professor in a professional or maybe specified field in that sense, so that you can highlight that particular area in your field. And also, the undergraduate school is mainly exam-based education. At the end of the semester, maybe before spring break, we have the exam. That might be the case for graduate education, but the emphasis is not mainly on the exam, but mainly on the research. And we are going to talk of different part of graduate school in that sense. So graduate school is training in research. You go there if you love research, you love scholarship, you love teaching, you love publishing, right? Writing the paper and then go present it somewhere. That's the logic of graduate school. And the goal of graduate student, let's talk about the doctor, is maybe to be a college professor, to be a researcher one time. Not necessarily that we have to be there, but most of the time when you go for the PhD, maybe you're thinking that I want maybe to be a professor one day, in that sense. So there's a more intensive relationship between faculty and other students when you're a graduate student, because you have to be a lab with other students over there. You have to do the experiment. You have to run some software together with other students. So they're going to be a little bit, I can say, group work when you're as a graduate student, maybe compared to when you're an undergraduate student. So when you're an undergraduate student, you acquire the general title. And I said that I will be using civil engineering a lot. Maybe they will call you a civil engineer after you graduate. But when you do the graduate studies, when you graduate, maybe you'll be traffic engineer. Remember, traffic is part of civil engineering, but because you took the specialized area in graduate, then you're not going to be civil engineer anymore. You're going to be structure engineer, traffic engineer, water resources engineer, something like that, because that is what you specialize in. So you can see the benefit of going for graduate school. You'll become known as a person who wrote certain paper, because you're going to do research, you're going to publish. Somebody who did certain research, somebody who challenged certain theory. Maybe, I don't know if I ever, some paper here. Let's say the theory which says that, somebody came with 2x minus 1. And then you, from your study, say, no, actually this is supposed to be what? 2x minus 0.1. That the change of 1 to 0.1 can bring, depending on, maybe this is the nuclear formula, and the difference between 1 and 0.1 is a major thing. So that one is going to define you as somebody if you go to graduate school. So let's check about 2 areas of graduate school, which is master's and PhD. What's the difference? So when you do the master's, it's mainly designed to give a solid education in specialized field, like PhD, but PhD goes much deeper. You specialize in a very, very small portion of your study. So if you're going for PhD, you are going to be a specialist in the field, but in most cases, usually, I say usually, not always, is targeted to be a professor or a researcher in one of the areas which you studied. The good thing that both master's and the PhD can be offered as a full-time, as a part-time, as a evening classes, online. All those can be offered in that sense. So if you have a time, if you are working, you can do this program very well. Don't say, I don't have a time. You can do it online. You can do it as a part-time. You can do it in the evening. And that also can be useful for you. So most of master's candidates spend 1 or 2 years or 3 years to get the degree, depending on the school, depending on the program. Some of them is accelerated program, which you can maybe do it for 1 year, some 2 years. So that depends. But a master student take a course to fulfill the degree, just like undergraduates. So you have to take the coursework. For my school, maybe you have to take 33 credit hours and then you take the research before you graduate. But the workload is heavier compared to undergrad. Heavier in sense, not in terms of number of hours, but in terms of the context of the course which you're going to take, based on the theory which you're going to do. So at the beginning of the master program, you choose or you assign the faculty professors or maybe advisor in that sense, who is going to advise you throughout the program. So this advisor will help you develop academic focus and potential topic for your research. So you have to come with if you are doing thesis, then you have to come with the title of your project and then the problem statement what you're going to solve. That will be coming from your advisor. Then you decide on your research focus and complete your master thesis or a final project. I said final project because we have two different of masters. Some of them called masters of, for instance, of engineering, where you just take the coursework and the project. You don't do the thesis. But if you do the thesis, then you have to do the research part. If you show promise, then your advisor can tell you, can you continue the PhD? Because the PhD is a quality. And I will say that if you want to go for PhD, it's better you do the coursework, the thesis side, because the thesis side is going to prepare you with the research. If you go to the coursework side, in which you don't do much of research, then the PhD might give you some challenge somehow. In some cases, students can register a program that results into master and PhD combined. I saw that situations. Maybe if you're doing very, very good at undergraduate, you get 4.0 GPA, you publish some of paper, you're undergraduate, then they can just promote you to the PhD program in some cases. In some universities, they do that. So let's go for the PhD. How does it go? You finish your master's and then you go for PhD. You spend 1 or 2 years taking the coursework. And then after 2 years, you present a proposal, the idea which you want to work on. So let's say we want to design, your proposal to design this chair for disabled people. You come up with the idea, you put in the paper format, you form a committee. Your advisor is going to give you a committee. And then you present your idea to the committee. Now I said before that PhD can take maybe 3 to 6 years. I saw some people who took 8 years. Why? Because you come up with the proposal and the committee say, no, this is not at the PhD level. You have to go and restart it again. So in case they accept the proposal, then you go back and work on that. And then they give you something they call comprehensive exam. So do the comprehensive exam, which will come from the area where you're doing research on. And if you pass that, then you become what we call a PhD candidate. So you've already passed the student level, now you're a candidate, you're working on the project, and then you can be ready to graduate. So most of the PhD students also work as a teaching assistants, and sometimes they can work, help the professor to teach, as also as a research assistants. As I said that at the end of the second and third year, the PhD student complete what a thesis and a comprehensive exam. And then the thesis exam demonstrates that you are qualifying to be a doctoral student now at that particular time, candidate. And then from there, you can proceed to your research. So when you have finally finished, you are required to present or defend your work before the faculty committee. That's a requirement. And then from there, you are ready maybe to graduate. Now, at this process, also, we said that the PhD is a level in which we come with a new idea or theories. If the committee find that the theory is not, doesn't contribute anything, they can go tell you that go back and maybe spend another 1 year repeating again. So that's why this PhD doesn't have exactly time. You might spend 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, depending on how you are doing your research. Now, let me go to the core of this presentation. There are some challenges which can come through the way as experience. And this is very, very important for you to consider. One of them is thoroughness of what they expect from you as a graduate student. So as a graduate student, you must be sufficiently engaged so that you'll have the desire to learn, to be prepared, and to have experience at the level of the master or graduate level. We need to differentiate you from undergraduate. In undergraduate, maybe you did that for those who are doing engineering, maybe you do the capstone design. We don't expect your report to look like a capstone. We expect your report or thesis to look like a master's level product. So the thoroughness of what you're going to do is going to be expected to be at high level. So that will depend on the quantity of things you are going to do, the quality. We expect the quality of your product as a graduate student to be at the level which you expect to be in that one. And also the consistency. I don't need to read one chapter of a graduate student and then the next chapter doesn't follow the first one. You need to be consistent. It means that your level of what you're going to produce should reflect the level of education, which is master or PhD level, which you are consuming. Another challenge is time. I think time is always a case for everything human beings do. So there's never enough time for a serious student in that case. And sometimes after you finish your project, maybe you decide, maybe I could have another 2 weeks maybe to clean something. So a very, very determined graduate student has a problem with the time. So you have to manage your time very well so that whatever you're going to produce can be within that constraint. So try using time management techniques to organize your stuff. Don't let your thesis or dissertation writing preparation drag you down, because in some cases, you might run the experiment, you might do research, but writing, putting it together so that somebody can can read it and understand it might be an issue. So that also is the area where you need to consider. Also the balance. When we are going to go to do, or when you are going to do the graduate school, you might be working, you might have a family and other stuff, which might be constrained to some of the things we are going to do. So you have to balance those with the graduate school. I saw some students also postponing maybe the studies because maybe there's too much. They can maybe take 1 semester or 2 semesters off and then come back to finish. That also is acceptable in that sense. Also, we have the intellectual challenge. What we expect you to produce as a graduate student should be of high level in terms of the thinking, the merit, and the intellectual input which you put in there. So the bar at the grad school is higher than it has ever been compared to undergraduate level. So don't go there and then bring me 15 pages of a thesis, so this is my thesis. Then you said that you didn't do anything. So the expectation of the intellectual input which you put in your report or your thesis is expected to be at higher level in that sense. We have also some emotional challenges that graduate school will take a long time sometimes, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So once you have achieved candidacy, especially for PhD, the research and writing will consume you. That also can be a challenge to you in some sense. And also there's a test of character, that the graduate school tests not only your knowledge and skill for your subject, but also your determination and perseverance. Sometimes you might fight with the advisor. Maybe the advisor doesn't like what you did. They say, okay, go and repeat it. And sometimes you might be offended in that sense. So those are there, and you need to be prepared in that case. About the commitment, sometimes it might require you to study and research during the break. Maybe this spring break, undergraduate students are going to party somewhere, but you are in the lab doing your research or writing your project. So it needs a commitment. Otherwise, if you don't commit yourself, then the result won't be such desirable from your expectations. About the research. The research in graduate school represents a focused personal effort. Is not for your advisor. Your advisor is not going to do it for you. Your advisor is just going to help you with ideas. Go do this, go do this. And you're going to dig in, you're going to check the literature, you're going to do the experiment in the lab, you're going to run the simulation, you're going to run the software. So the research, especially if you're doing thesis or the PhD, is a big part of it, and then you need to be committed on that. I'll skip that. And also we have flexibility. Sometimes what you are going to do in part of your graduate school or your research might not make sense, and then you have to go back and redo it again. So you must be flexible in your approach and research program. You must be flexible, maybe stop of the methodology you are using, maybe approach you are using, and then use a different one. So this also will need skills, your personal skills of how to do things, your creativity, your relationship with the professor, advisor, and the committee, and your fellow students. All of those are needed for you to be successful in doing graduate studies. That's very, very important. So let's talk about the advisor. Advisor is a very important component of being a graduate student. In most cases, your research, either as a master's or a PhD, your research will be guided by advisor. This advisor, you might choose your advisor by yourself, or maybe the department might choose advisor for you. But that relationship is very, very crucial. These individuals are given direction and support for the appropriate development of the research from the advisors. And if you're going for PhD or maybe master, so there's a committee which determine the constraint of what you're doing. So the graduate student, the advisor, and the graduate committee constitute the basic core of what you're doing. You should have a respect to this group of people. Advisor, graduate committee, and yourself is going to determine what you're going to produce from the graduate school. It is the quality, the scope, and the extent of interaction within this group which will make you successful as a graduate student. So you need to pay attention to the advisor. So what are the advisor's expectations? Is that you need to maintain a good relationship with the advisor in all ways, all the way to graduation. Don't fight with him. Sometimes the advisor can give you maybe some ideas you think this is wrong. Maybe the methodologist is telling you is not right the way you think it. But in some cases, maybe you just need to have a dialogue rather than becoming mad and then things are not going the way it's supposed to be. If your advisor pay you as a research assistant, maybe as a TA, and sometimes they pay you, don't focus on how much you're paid and how many hours you're doing. Focus on the product of what you're producing. That's very, very important. If you produce well, then the advisor will think that this guy needs some good payment. But don't say, oh, you know, this week I worked for 8 hours and I am tired or something like that. That won't make sense to the advisor. So also advisor might certainly have connection inside and outside of the university. And if you have a good relationship with the advisor, that also can help you to maybe after graduation or maybe from the publication and other stuff. As a graduate student, you should behave in a professional way in all interactions with the advisor. That's very, very important. There should be a friendship, but also in a professional way, not in a way which maybe doesn't make sense. You should ask your advisor before registering for elective courses. Because of graduate school or graduate studies are very specific. You don't need just to register for the classes. Oh, maybe this professor is easy, I will get her in this case. No, you need to consult your advisor. And which courses should I take? Maybe these courses are related to the program which you are doing, and that can help you with your research. So these are just some of the area which you should experience as a graduate student if you decided to go there. There are so many because the time was very, very short. I just wanted to go quickly to touch almost every concept of it. But you should make sure that you follow all of those for you to be very, very successful.